Hey kids, do you like professional wrestling? Well, we like professional wrestling too. This week in the news, Lex Luger going into the WWE Hall of Fame, the lazy river of wrestling criticism, a preview of AEW Revolution, and in Vader Club, Super Vader versus Gary Albright from UWFi in 1995. That's Nove's choice. This is Shake Them Ropes. I am Jeff Hawkins. He is Chris Novembrino. Chris, I am in HELOC hell right now. This morning I decided I was going to look into getting a home equity line of credit to fix up my place so I could put it up for sale and get out of Los Angeles finally. And what has happened is you put your inquiry in, and then 40 different lenders at the same time decide to start calling and texting and trying to close a deal when all you want is rates. All I want is rates. All I want to know is how much are you going to charge me for this? Well, if my manager has more leeway, pulling all the car sales scams and all that other stuff. And if there are some interruptions because my phone rings during this time, I apologize. But I'm just like, do we need 40 of you all? I just wanted one free. They go to see, it's one of these things like Lending Tree where it's like, you want to see the rates. I just want to see the rates. That's all I want to see.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to talk to anybody because I don't like any of you people. I just want the friggin' rates, and I can't get them because everybody thinks they're going to be able to close the sale on this one because this is a hot lead. We got somebody with an actual credit score and stuff. So yeah, not a lot of fun. I don't know if you've ever been through, you've probably been through something like this with home
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I dealt with this with the cars a couple of years ago, and then I dealt with this again with the house last year. It's just like once you get on these lists,
God,
they don't go away.
I've started blocking
annoying.
the callers, and I
Yeah.
feel bad about it, but it's like I had one lender call me 6 times already to try and get me on the. I'm like, just give me the rate. You've already texted me and you've given me a link. That's all I need. All I need is the link. Thank you very much. Because my personal bank has now kind of outsourced all that stuff since 2021 to other people. USAA used to be great because you could just go in, be very quiet one, boom, boom, boom. You're getting a good thing and you're out of there. But now they've stopped dealing in that stuff. And so now I have to go shop the open market. And the open market is full of nothing but bloodthirsty people wanting my money.
And the way I like to handle this, because if you don't eventually have a vent portal, you'll kind of burst on this, is the first 2 to 3 times I asked to get off the list. If we've gone past the ask to get off the list and we're still calling me, at that point, you're open season. And I now choose to have fun with you.
See, all that reminds me of is my dad used to love to talk to the scam artists who would call. Because he thought he could, and one time he actually got scammed. I'm just like, Dad, no, Dad, Microsoft's not going to call you because you have because of the virus was found on your Norton or whatever. Okay, so we learned the lesson the hard way. Then it's just one of these things where I just don't answer if I don't recognize the number.
We're not having a conversation. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I answer the phone, and then sometimes I just speak in loud gibberish.
It's funny, but it's cruel, and I like it.
I asked for the harassment to stop 3 times now. At
True,
some
there
point,
is that law.
the line crosses the other way. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
here?
I do.
The pendulum swings the other way. First couple of times, I'm not trying to be an asshole about it. After the 3rd time, you're not stopping. Okay, I'm going to have fun with this because clearly asking nicely didn't work, but maybe being told will get you to stop calling me.
David Lee Roth is on the call. Oh, going into the news, for those of you who like Petty, it has just been fired on the see what WWE is going to do on Memorial Day weekend. WWE has announced next Saturday night's main event has been confirmed, with the selection being Tampa, Florida, and the Amalie Arena. with the date of that show being May 24th. In addition, the night following Saturday night's main event on Sunday, May 25th, NXT will present Battleground PLE, also from Tampa, Florida, with rumors that Monday Night Raw on the 26th will take place in Tampa as well. Guess what happens on that weekend, Chris? AEW All in Texas. So here we go. So they're going to counter program with the NXT PLE, not the big boys. Okay, we'll see how that goes. I still think AEW is going to do a fine number, but you know,
I just don't think they're worried about counter programming.
You just think it's Memorial Day weekend. I think these types of shows on a holiday weekend are kind of hard, you know, on people who are traveling anyway. So
yeah, exactly. I don't think they're as concerned about counter programming, and so I'm just sort of bucking against the frame here a little bit. Like,
okay,
yeah, you know, these are travel weekends, as you just said. It's back in the 80s, right? You know, you do like Thanksgiving, some of these holiday weekends or whatever, you have good TV for that, or, you know, a good event for that. Now, I think, you know, we look at Labor Day, we look at Memorial Day, we look at like even 4th of July, and like these are not big draw weekends for the business. These are, if you do an okay number, that's good. You can't book into them thinking you're going to hit a windfall.
Interesting you say that, because I'm going to skip a couple stories and jump down to this one. This is from The Observer. We had mentioned that WWE had booked the Mohegan Sun Casino Arena in Uncasville, Connecticut for a July 5th show, which we had figured would be an NXT show since it's far too small for a regular pay-per-view. However, the tentative plan for that date is the second all-women's Evolution show. This has not been revealed, but those at the building were told of those as being the tentative plan. So we're going to take that July 4th throwaway weekend, and we're going to put the all-women show during that time. I think
the last evolution, right?
The last evolution was when they were in Saudi Arabia and they couldn't take women. I remember that being an interesting piece of counter programming. Was okay, since the women can't go here, we're going to do their. I liked the first Evolution show. I did. I thought it was a strong show, and I think they have an even better roster now. I mean, you put like I assume Bailey's going to get her choice of whoever she wants, and it'll probably be either Julia or like a Stephanie Vaquer type. Maybe Mako Satomura makes her way onto that card. I think they're going to load it up. I think it's going to be a decent card.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really cool if they used it to launch a big angle for the women too.
That's kind of lacking a little bit, unless you count the Bianca Belair one that's going
right
on now.
Right. No, I think actually a show like this could be a really good opportunity to launch a heel faction or something like that, but get some big news coming out of the show and not just some big matches.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd like to see that kind of planning.
But yeah, I also think that you're seeing the model here. Like WWE is, in my opinion, right to put, I don't want to call like the Evolution show a B tier show in this derisive way, but it's not Mania. It's not Royal Rumble.
It's not the Big Five.
It's not, exactly. It's not, right? And I think that that's okay. I think that's actually a smart way to play it, because I think if you put one of the Big Five on one of these holiday weekends, they'd always be swimming upstream a little bit.
I would agree. It was interesting because that was mostly the thought of AEW, was because WWE would avoid these holiday weekends for the major shows, that they'd go on those like 3-day weekends, and then you'd have that Monday off so they could be travel shows. That's what they were originally.
Right. No, and I get the logic. I just think this is a nature of the consumer changing sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't think, man. I'm not even sure there are travel shows anymore, other than maybe Mania and the Rumble.
Especially right now. Right now, travel's expensive. Right, you know, lodging is expensive. The cost of everything has gone up, and you know, wrestling is not necessarily a rich man's passion. It's not that there's no rich wrestling fans. It's that the broad market of wrestling tends to break into the lower socioeconomic demographic. So the amount of money that people in that tranche right now have, myself included, is very limited to do a travel show.
Yeah, and also they're just not the same. Like the indie shows surrounding this year's Mania are not as big as they once were when AEW did not exist, kind of a thing. So yeah, it's never mind. I'll move on.
No, I'm kind of with you. I miss the golden age of the satellite indie shows around Mania. That because like when we did it in Dallas,
that Dallas weekend was fantastic.
So good.
Yes,
it was. You got your indie wrestling. And you got your big, McDonald's wrestling 2 from WWE and like an all-time stinker in Roman Reigns versus Triple H. But like, God, I mean, like all the indie wrestling
even the
was
stuff,
so fun.
even the stuff that WWE did, like NXT was still kind of burgeoning even before. I mean, like the NXT show was hot.
The NXT show was so hot.
But
that was awesome.
That was the hottest ticket of the weekend. But they were also doing stuff at whatever they call their giant shop thing. They had a few matches there with like guys who were high indie tier brought in to face some of the young kids at NXT. Yeah, I miss that camaraderie, but I understand why AEW does not want to be seen as we're poaching off of WrestleMania, and they hold a lot of the people that would be on those types of shows. So I get that.
I know, but I just think it's such a mistake. It's okay. You're doing Mania weekend. You have Adam Copeland on your roster. Like,
yeah.
Wrestling fans want to see Edge.
How come you're not with WWE? That's the fear. I think it's like when guys would ask Jeff Hardy, "How come you're not wrestling anymore?" when he was in TNA.
Well, I mean, I think you could know he is in TNA and still ask that question, Jeff.
That's true. God. Anyways, Lex Luger named as the next inductee of the WWE Hall of Fame. And they had a nice little video where he was working out with DDP, and Cody Rhodes came in to tell him, kind of like the whole Sterling Sharp, Shannon Sharp video. It was sweet. I like this move for one reason. I think Vince had a bee in his bonnet about how big of a, I wouldn't say a failure Lex Luger was, but he didn't live up to be the next Hogan that he wanted Lex Luger to be. And to me, it's a good thing to get these guys in the Hall of Fame before they pass away. I'm sorry. I think they like that moment. Vince had this thing where it's like he'd know somebody was like on the way. Like, I think Vader is a perfect example of that. I think Vader really wanted to be inducted while he was still living. And then he never got the chance. It's either him or Bam Bam. I can't remember which one. I think it might have been both, actually. But it's like, and then like posthumously they'll do that, but they want to keep it quiet because they don't want to remind people that the person's dead. It was such a weird, stupid thing. And look, you get one last pop. That's all these guys really want, I think. And I understand that. I just never understood Vince's almost sadism about keeping certain people out of the Hall of Fame because of his certain proclivities.
Yeah. I mean,
I love does Lex Luger deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame? I'm like, deserve's got nothing to do with it. They put in who they want to put in. It's fine.
I'm just thinking on Lex. Like I stalled out because I was thinking on Lex. Was it really Luger's fault that he failed to get over in the mid 90s, or is that much more of a byproduct to me of really inconsistent presentation of Lex Luger in WWF all throughout his career? And then like the gimmick that he was trying to do in 93 was stale.
Yes, the culture, that's what it was.
The culture, so like you have like multiple things. Like I never loved Luger. I think he has some better than expected matches, and he definitely has some moments, but like obviously not a great promo. Marble mouthed. I feel like his best.
Lex Luger promo is he's practicing it in front of the mirror at home, and then he gets on camera and he can only remember half the promo, but you know he has something very important to say. That was always the thing with him.
Part of that it looks like it's very important is that he's trying desperately to remember what it is he's supposed to say. Yes. And so the brow gets really furrowed as a result of that. I feel like the definitive Lex Luger promo is Sting! Just screaming for Sting. But I don't blame Luger for not necessarily being able to get over in 93 with this American hero battleship crap. You had Bart Simpson in the culture at this point. It wasn't 87. Vince was trying to book for 87. It's actually a very good comparison.
He was basically running the Hulk Hogan playbook with Lex Luger.
Right. And, here's a good comparison thing, different piece of culture, but MacGyver starts in the mid to late 1980s. I think it's like 86. And by 1992, MacGyver as a character kind of feels a little out of step with where culture was at that point. And 5 years, especially between 87 and 92, is a very long time, a very, very big shift in just what people were into and what was on the radio, what was on TV, who was popular, all of those things.
I can't speak on this because I was never a MacGyver fan, but I always thought, he kind of was the natural evolution from the A-team, so to speak, in terms of, being able to, build. I don't know if this is true or not, so you'll have to help me on this because I literally know nothing about the MacGyver show.
Oh, it's a great show.
I know you do. This is why I'm asking you. What was his gig that he could build contraptions and stuff to get out of situations?
Exactly. He didn't use a gun, and that was actually a big premise of the show. Is that as a reaction to the A-team and a lot of 1980s action stuff where everything was just use a gun and then shoot 50 people to get your way out of wherever you're at. MacGyver wouldn't, just kill 50 people or whatever. He would instead use actual
Rube Goldberg devices and stuff like that.
Yeah, or elementary devices to solve problems. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and his problem was he lived in the age of the action movie, so to speak. So he's the guy who doesn't use a gun that does trash. Meanwhile, these jacked up steroid dudes are carrying Gatling guns and mowing down entire armies.
So it's interesting because it's the gun thing, right? The not using a gun thing in the late 80s, it plays one way as in, bucking against culture a little bit. And MacGyver's kind of quintessential nice guy who actually cares about others instead of being Clint Eastwood on too many steroids, sort of hero, like a Stallone or whatever, or Schwarzenegger. You have,
and we can tie this back into WWF because at that time it was Brett and Sean were starting to really, and people were really starting to notice that, hey, we don't just want lumbering, jacked up 6'5" dudes, doing who can only do 3 different moves. We actually like the flow of a match type of a thing.
But by the mid 1990s, Brett's a good analogy to kind of bring us back to wrestling here. Brett 1990 kind of has a little bit of a Mac vibe to it. He's clean cut. By 1993, he's got a little bit of an edge. And MacGyver, when they try to get into 92, 93, I think they realized the show was kind of done. Because MacGyver was so nice and caring, and that's such a part of his personality, to the point of being a trope and goofy. It's funny. It's funny how much he cares. By 93, we want guys with an edge. We want Bret the Hitman Hart to have the leather jacket and a little bit of a swagger to him.
The anti-hero was really coming in because that was when the Punisher, Batman's too nice because he won't kill people. Here we go. Let's bring the Punisher in and give him a push, kind of a thing. Even though he was invented years earlier, but because this is when I was I was in college. I had come into college, and everything was about anti-heroes starting to be, like, oh, these nice heroes, they suck. Let's kill Superman because he's just too darn nice, and let's see what the DC universe will be after that. So now we have the Eradicator who will kill people and stuff like that. It's like, okay, great.
And Luger had no edge. Vince's idea of giving this guy a push was he's gonna body slam Yokozuna on a battleship.
He was pure vanilla. He was pure white bread.
That's not where the Simpsons are at. That's not where Jerry Springer is at. And because you need to not just be thinking about 93, you need to be thinking about 94 and 95. If we are trying to push this guy to be the new top of the company, and we're considering Lex Luger's all-American boy gimmick, he was going to be wildly out of step in an era where Bullet with butterfly wings is on.
Yeah.
Despite all my rage,
grunge had come in, and
and Luger is very much 1988. This is still hair metal.
Yeah, well, not even hair metal. I'd go with like boomer rock.
Yeah,
because like Billy Joel, Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel, Steve Winwood.
No, Foreigner, hot blooded. Lex Luger as a wrestler is in this gimmick is hot blooded by Foreigner.
I love that song. Do you not like that version of Foreigner either? Because if you were trashing I Want to Know What Love Is, and I got that, or I'm waiting for a girl like you. Do you not like Hot Blooded either?
Hot Blooded stinks, Jeff.
Oh my God.
I like girls. I like having sex. I like women. I like having sex.
I gotta get you onto
great song.
I gotta get you onto the Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode with the Foreigner belt.
I love that episode. That's a great episode.
That episode's fantastic.
And you know what he wins? He wins with one of the good songs, Double Vision.
Okay, I see. It's weird because I don't see much of a evolution between Double Vision and Hot Blooded, but that's me.
Okay, Double Vision has like a cool synth line, and like Hot Blooded is like if you hit Mick Jagger and Keith with a shovel and told them to come back with a simplified version of Brown Sugar.
That's Eddie. Well, that's one of Eddie Gilbert's theme songs. Never mind. Hot Stuff is also the other one, but nevertheless, let's move on. AEW not renewing some contracts. Names heard so far are all talents not being used, including Abaddon, Zach Knight, and Nick Camarado. Again, all three. I mean, look, Zach Knight's decent. That's Soraya's brother. He was basically only on Rampage / Collision. Abaddon and Nick Camarado had something.
I like Abaddon.
And she worked. Sorry, wrong pronoun. That's my bad. Didn't mean to do it that way. Abaddon has worked their ass off to get in shape and to be better, only to be like a once a year joke brought out for Halloween. I thought Nick Camarado had a very interesting look, especially sometimes when he'd like grow the sideburns out and look like somebody straight out of 1973.
Yeah, I liked Camarado a lot. Thank you for preemptively correcting me on Abaddon, because this is just not a person we talk about a whole heck of a lot. So keeping their pronouns top of
non-binary.
I respect it. It's just one of these things where it would have totally slipped my mind, because you talk about a person once every 5 months.
Yeah.
That's not very often. I couldn't tell you a whole heck of a lot about Abaddon. Outside of seeing them occasionally on the show. I like Camarado. I like Abaddon. Think they both have excellent gimmicks.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it doesn't fit into Tony's and I'm going to continue to say this even though people bitch at me about it, very narrow view of what he wants to use on a show. Really, it's SmackDown 6, Ring of Honor, and New Japan guys. That's all he really wants. He wants the work rate guys, and I get it.
And he doesn't know how to take a part and enhance the part, right? One of the things that Vince was sometimes dreadful at, but sometimes excellent at, is he'd get a guy. Actually, Ray Traylor is a good example of this. Once he gave Ray Traylor the Big Boss Man gimmick, I think that really kind of pulled together a lot of A lot of the occupational gimmicks of the late 80s and early 90s are quite
Scott
terrible.
Hall and Razor Ramon is
Scott Hall and Razor Ramon,
is the
another
Rosetta Stone of that,
Yeah.
or Kurt Hennig and Mr. Perfect.
Kurt Hennig and Mr.
Because
Perfect.
Kurt Hennig was nothing, and I mean, look, he was a good wrestler in AWA. He cut a decent but not great promo, and now all of a sudden he's known as one of the best promo guys ever, and that was pure Vince. It wasn't him; it was Vince.
No, and he
directing him.
Hennig became a really good commentary guy too.
Yeah.
Good promo, really underappreciated on commentary. He was so versatile. Vince got so much out of him. Like even without ever putting the belt on him, Hennig always had some really good stuff to do on that show for a very long time. I mean, I think Khan would really benefit from, not that he will, but he would benefit from looking at some of these parts and going like, okay, a guy like Camarado needs sort of defining character flourish or something to just,
or maybe somebody to speak for him or something.
Some sort of finishing touch, some sort of gimmick finishing touch, some sort of something.
Yes.
A person like Abaddon, that same thing, finishing touch, good wrestler. Let's just get them something that kind of rounds everything out.
Yeah, Wardlow's the same. Wardlow's working an indie show over Mania Week, by the way, which is very interesting because they usually don't allow people to do that. He's another one that.
Who's Wardlow?
Travis Scott absolutely potatoed Cody Rhodes at Elimination Chamber. If you didn't know, if you didn't watch SmackDown, Black eye, ruptured eardrum. I'm hoping those receipts are coming. I do. I want a receipt. I want a receipt just to keep because now he's training for wrestling allegedly.
I hope they break this guy's ribs. This guy needs to get thrown into one of the turnbuckle posts and have a rib broken. Because I know it sounds brutal. Go and watch it. It was completely gratuitous. I know you've seen it, but I'm saying this to all the listeners. So Scott.
He's high as a kite, too.
He's high as a kite. He's missing his marks. John Cena's trying to correct him because what they're supposed to do is stretch him out for Rock. And Cody is completely unprotected at this point because he's got the arms. First, Travis Scott puts his knee on one of Cody's arms, foot on Cody's hand or wrist area, which must have sucked. Then he punches him and it's a slop-looking punch, but it's directly into the eardrum. And then the second one's open-handed, and that's the one that's really going to collapse your eardrum. That's just wind directly onto that bad boy. Dude, Travis Scott needs to get potatoed in whatever match they put him in.
Needs a Vader match is what he needs. Some of those meat hooks hit Travis Scott. He'll never want to work again. This is where Dory Funk Sr. is like, look, we can't have the celebrity go out here thinking that we're soft or whatever. Somebody needs to go in there and break his arm or something. That would be what the old school dudes like him would do. But
you know who'd be perfect for this because he'd do just enough damage but no one to stop? Kevin Owens.
I don't think Kevin Owens is that type. I don't.
I think he would be, given the disrespect to the boys.
Like a Bob Holly type one. Like somebody who has that mean streak in them that Randy Orton might. But yeah.
I mean, there's actually Randy would be a good one. Oh, Trav, we're just going to have you do an RKO, and Randy really potatoes him.
Natty Natalya is booked on the April 17th Bloodsport show at the Pearl at the Palms in Las Vegas. Kind of here for that. And for the NWA on May 17th for the Crockett Cup event. She's still under contract for WWE. I'm just guessing that due to her tenure, and the fact that it's like, hey, we don't have anything for you for Mania, she's going to get to do some outside shows. That's my view of it.
I think it's that, and maybe it's the start of some degree of outreach between the organizations.
Might be. I also think it just might be she's on the downslope. We're going to be keeping her under contract because of her husband.
Right. And so we can use her to do a little bit of outreach and
goodwill. Maybe outreach,
yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I don't. Look, they'd formalize a relationship with TNA. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility
For the
that they get
NWA?
some sort of relationship with NWA.
Okay. Well, Billy Corgan will take the money. Thank you very much.
I'm sure he will. You know, Billy Corgan, and you can just ask him, is a very smart man. He's also, have I ever talked to you about how he's very upset that he's not ranked higher on the list of greatest guitarists?
We've not had that conversation.
So a list about the 50 greatest guitarists came out, I believe, in Rolling Stone. And Corgan was not ranked particularly high on this. I think he was in the bottom 10 or whatever, in the top 50 greatest of whatever. And Corgan proceeded to do interviews and talk about how he considers himself to be far superior than a great number of people on the list and believes that he should have been ranked much higher. He's a smart man. Just ask him. He'll tell you.
We'll end the news segment with this. The Wrestling Observer reported a situation that took place with Shayna Baszler and Jade Cargill last year that led to Cargill getting heat. Fightful had asked WWE about the incident shortly after Jade Cargill was written off TV. Those in the locker room had been quiet. Since then, it was claimed that Cargill took issue with something that had unfolded, and the word around the locker room was that Cargill had said something to the effect that Baszler needed to learn how to work. We're told it stemmed from the match in Scotland where Cargill tapped out in what wasn't supposed to be the finish of the match. And there was that whole thing about wolves being in her video, and she had said that she was surrounded by wolves in the locker room. It's got a bit of heat for that. For the defense, Your Honor, in terms of Shayna Baszler, I've sat next to her at a couple of PWG shows all night talking wrestling. Could not be a nicer person. And if you're, I don't know.
It's one of those things. I think I've actually had an experience recently where you hear a comment and you are actually so taken aback by the nature of the comment that you sort of snap because it's so ridiculous. Like if I was Shayna Baszler and I heard "you don't work well" from Jade effing Cargill, I would stop and fall back in my chair a little bit.
Here's my thinking, and I'm thinking people are taking this way out of proportion. It's not that it shouldn't be taken out of proportion, but it's like Shayna Baszler's a trained MMA fighter. She knows how to beat your ass.
Yeah.
And if she was deciding that we needed to work a little snug because certain things weren't looking good, she may have put on a choke a little too tight, and that might have, garnered somebody's anger, like Cargill, who doesn't have to sell all that much, to say something like, learn how to work type of a thing, because your choke was, I thought you were really choking me.
But then saying that in front of it's
that's
one thing
not
to
a
say
good
that.
thing.
Saying that in front of an audience, I mean, think about how that would have fallen in a room full of wrestlers. It's like, a inferior comedian telling someone who is well respected and still very much in the prime of their career, you need to work on some of your jokes. Like all the comedians in the room would side eye you and have that.
I was privy to a situation like that once,
right? No, so we can, I can imagine in my head how this would have went, because these situations, I mean, even with different people, when you scale it out to 7-8 people, it's going to be about the same thing. You say something this ludicrous to a veteran and you're inferior in terms of talent level to them in front of an audience, they're going to be like, whoa, what are you doing? What is wrong with you?
And it was an open micer who talked to somebody who he was very angry at a headliner who was trying out some material that night for a special, and did not go well afterwards, where there had to be a certain amount of respect that you had to give the open micer, and that dude wasn't having any of it. It just, I was like, no, don't do that.
Right. I mean, guess to this point, it's like before this conversation even starts, Jade Cargill owes Shayna Baszler a certain base level of respect because of what Shayna Baszler has done in the professional wrestling ring in just her time in NXT, when she was one of the best women's champions this company's ever seen in NXT.
Yeah.
She was outstanding.
Yeah, no, and she took to, I mean, she's the female DDP story as well, in terms of getting into it very late in life, in terms of relatively speaking, and then just really catching on to it once she got in there. So no, I agree with you. That'll do it for the news, because I'm skipping the other stories because they're not that important. Whatever we watched, whatever we saw, we will start though, because we do have a pay-per-view this weekend, AEW Revolution, generating from live here in Los Angeles, California. And Chris, I am not going for a dumb reason. I'm not going because I'd be too tempted by the snacks. I'm on a diet. So no, I'm not going to AEW Revolution because my love of nachos might take me over, and I'm really trying to drop some pounds this year. It's somebody wrote me and goes, "That's the dumbest reason I've ever heard not to go to a wrestling event." I go, "Trust me, it's a long slog through a wrestling event, and if you don't have food at the ready, I'm gonna end up buying some very bad food for me." Your thoughts on that, by the way? Am I the asshole
for not going to the event because of the food?
Yes.
I mean, look, especially like one of these long events, you need to eat, right? But
yes.
It tacks on $25 to eat at one of these events, generally speaking. You know, if you want food and a drink, you are lucky to be spending less than $20 on that. It's probably going to be closer to 25. That
and
really
ups the
cost.
Also at crypto, I have access to suites because I know, from former jobs and stuff like that. I knew the people who always had the tickets for what we call business. What's it called? Basically, when you want to wine and dine your clients, you take them to a game or something. If you have like a box up there, but they never used them for hockey or wrestling. So I always knew, say, "Hey, can I borrow the tickets for this night?" If nobody else has used them, sure, here you go, Hawkins.
Yeah, I did one of those boxes one time for a Raw. I won't lie, I was a little annoyed because we weren't allowed to actually watch the show in the box. So
really.
Yes. So we had to just see it as best we could from where we were.
Oh, because it was okay. I get it. But at crypto, in the suites, they come by with the dessert cart, and some of the best caramel apples you'll ever have, like the giant kind that you'd order from one of those confectionery places. Oh, they're so good. Anyway,
I'll just say this, yeah, for the money, it wasn't actually that much to do the box. It was only I think $50 or $60.
It would cost me the cost of the pay-per-view to get a box seat in there. I'd be with a bunch of strangers, but I'd know, it's one of those things.
It wasn't bad, and the company was good. It's just we couldn't see the show very well.
I had to take a bunch of lawyers' kids once because they knew I liked wrestling and they didn't want to go, and it was fun, but still it's I'd rather go with my boys and have a few beers rather than these 10 and 11-year-olds who loved every moment of it. Was a SummerSlam, I think I went. But anyways, one match for 0 Hour announced thus far. Big Boom AJ, the only guy I know who did any promotional work for this show. He was at a Laker game this week. I haven't seen any of the AEW people on LA media this week. And the conglomeration of Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe with Big Justice and probably the Rizzler somewhere around, although he got injured last time. He got injured ringing the bell.
How did he? Who?
I think he hit himself with a hammer.
The Rizzler's got to be more careful. He's a national treasure. We need to protect our Rizzler.
Versus Johnny TV, friend of the show, and MXM Collection, Mansoor and Mason Madden. This is fairly obvious. I just want to know, is Big Boom AJ getting the pin? And will he be booed out of the building by a bunch of ironic Los Angelinos? That's my two questions.
I think he is getting the pin. I do think the boom, the bloom on the boom is starting to meet its doom, if you ask me. The
Thank
boom.
you, Nipsey Russell. That was great.
Yeah, I think rhyming couplets are the new way to do punditry.
Look,
And some of the most salient points that I've heard in my life actually rhymed.
I love Nipsey Russell. Don't get me wrong. Now it needs to be iambic pentameter from
Yeah,
now on.
okay, how about Muhammad Ali? A lot of people like him. Bit of a legend, Jeff. A bit of a legend.
No, I'll have one ear on this match probably as it runs.
But no, I would be interested, honestly, in just hearing if there is still interest in these Costco guys. I feel like that they had a pretty pop song like quality about them. Everybody had one line. They were basically just a little catchy chorus of human beings.
Long Island, where he's from, was a home game, so he'd get a lot of sympathy there. LA is a much different beast. All the influencers live here, and all the people who live here hate the influencers. So it'll be and people will still be filing in, so it'll be a half-empty arena anyways. So I expect to be a smattering of boos, but no
on the
cheers.
flip side, if AJ is a true businessman, he heel turns here
Against Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe.
Yes.
Powerbomb the Rizzler. That's what I want.
No. The Rizzler heel turns too.
Oh.
Yes.
Both on how about on Big Justice? Big Justice has to stay babyface. That kid is so naive in so many ways.
I actually, Big Justice, if he could do like a Cena style face thing where he goes from the naive smirking thing to sinister looking, and him and AJ like turn into the sinister psychos that I have always known them to be, I would be into this.
Yeah, I've seen Big Justice try and play baseball. It's sad. And what may steal the show, this is not in the order that the matches will appear, because, God, again, we have 9 matches on the main card for a 3-hour show. Good God. Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher in a steel cage match. I'm here for this. I think so. I'm afraid because AEW steel cage matches are usually where somebody tries to do too much and gets injured. See Adam Copeland, see Cody Rhodes doing a moonsault off the top of the cage where he broke his toe or something. But I expect probably Fletcher to do something insane off the top of the cage. Maybe both guys. Maybe they do like a what am I trying to think? What's the move? The one where you kind of grab a guy and you both flip.
Oh, the Spanish Fly.
Spanish Fly, thank you.
There you go.
Off the top.
That kind of protects both guys a little bit.
I think see, it's weird because I'd love Kyle Fletcher to win this, but I think it's finally time for the babyfaces to win one.
Oh, my God. No, here's the thing. Fletcher and Ospreay on paper as a feud, I would be excited for the matches, but the actual build for Fletcher and Ospreay has been so rotten that I'm just done with the weekly television. Don Callis does not add anything to characterization for any of the guys that he's working with right now.
He's all about Don Callis getting over.
Yeah, Don Callis is just about Don Callis. He does not present any value added for any of the talent he works with.
Who you got winning?
Ospreay.
Okay. Kazuchika Okada versus Brody King for the AEW Continental Championship. There's a rumor going around that they may merge the Continental International Championships, making it the Intercontinental Championship. No, they would never do that, but because they have too many useless belts. Look, it'll be a fine match. We'll see what kind of Okada we get. We know Brody King's going to be game because he's from out here in Van Nuys. I don't see a title change. I don't even know if Okada's going to necessarily bring the full Okada out.
I don't think we're going to get the full Okada. I don't see a title change. I hope they call it the International Continental title.
That's so good. I just keep both belts at the same time again.
Fuse them together, like just
Yes.
like very poorly, like band them together.
Look like that terrible, a terrible Mid-South title. There was one that just looked like a square block of metal that they had at one time. MJF versus Hangman Adam Page. I figure Hangman does this and we start to build him doing something at All In Texas.
I don't know. The AEW loves to keep feuds going for too long.
Yeah, I mean,
MJF wins this.
Really? Okay. I'm here for that because I prefer MJF as a character more than Adam Page and his.
I hate Adam Page as a character compared to MJF.
You see, it's weird. We are like on this island alone because there are people who love this Hangman character and thinks
oh yeah, it's great.
And I'm guessing it's Generation Alpha types or younger. Because it's or maybe even millennials. What are you, a millennial or are you?
I'm a millennial, but this explains why all the Generation Alpha guys beat the shit out of me and then cry about it 2 weeks later.
In an unfortunate turn of events for the AEW World Tag Team Championship, the Hurt Syndicate of Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin versus the Outrunners of Turbo Floyd and Truth Magnum. I like the Outrunners. They have not necessarily lived up to main event potential, even though they got over a little bit. But I also expect the Murder Machines to somehow come out here and mess with things to then make this a three-way feud eventually or something like that. This feud must continue in some ways, but the Hurt Syndicate's retaining their titles.
I think the Hurt Syndicate retains. I enjoyed the Outrunners nostalgia package this week on AEW. That was fun.
That was fun.
I just, as an act, the guys, I love what they're trying to do, but they don't quite get there for me.
I'm the same way, and it's one of those things where it's like, I love the 80s nostalgia, and I wish they'd work like 80s wrestlers that weren't WWF wrestlers. That to me is what gets me, is they're doing like Hogan and Macho Man spots, where I'd much rather they were doing like Eddie Gilbert spots.
I would love 80s job guy sells occasionally from these dudes too, you know, like where they like what noodle,
like the Mokies.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Like that they sometimes homage to the absolute schlub cell of the 80s, and then they can fire back or whatever. But like a couple of schlub cells will go along. I respect what they're doing. They've clearly put a lot of time and energy and thought into it, but for some reason it just doesn't quite get there for me.
They don't get there because I think they never fully go all in. It feels ironic to me, and I think that's where the issue is. I like them a lot though. I do. For the AEW TBS title, Mercedes Moné versus Momo Watanabe. Again, Dynamite was so freaking confusing to me this week in how it was structured, because it was all about not the most important match on the card. But we've also not seen Momo Watanabe wrestle. She's wrestling a throwaway match tonight on Collision to build for the pay-per-view, and that's the only time we're going to see her in the ring. So we can never get so we're never going to really learn, unless we watch this Collision, what the setups for her finishes are, so we can anticipate it, so we can cheer for Mercedes and kick out of it. But Mercedes is winning this thing, I think.
Well, yeah, but that we don't have to worry about any of that because she's just there for Mercedes to beat. Now, if this match was designed to sell tickets and move units and do anything for business, then this is an utter dereliction of business, right? You have Mercedes Moné going up against a challenger who many of us don't even know who the heck she is. How are you going to sell tickets based off of that? They're like, who is Momo Wannabe? I don't know her.
She's the girl with the bat who's been in all these segments on Dynamite, but not in the ring. So we should somehow care about her. Yeah, I found that baffling. Also somewhat baffling, but it wasn't bad. Swerve Strickland versus Ricochet in a singles match to determine the number one contender to the AEW World Championship. This is the program that AEW Dynamite was centered around. I don't think they did a bad job of it. I just think the difference between them and the other company is the other company always formats, especially go-home shows, the ending is always about your biggest match on the card in terms of your championship match. And this one was about what's going to be the best worked match, in his opinion, I think. So,
well, and the other big problem with this is you have created a match here where it is very hard to imagine Ricochet winning and being the number one contender for the Death Riders, and that being some sort of story that has any degree of legs at all.
Especially because he's kind of doing he's doing the kind of gimmick that would get killed by a John
right,
Moxley.
Right. John Moxley would hate this gimmick.
Yes.
Yeah. So and if anything, you would just babyface the Death Riders, because I feel like the crowd, when given the option of the swaggering badasses who give no Fs versus Ricochet and his like chuckly laugh and his schmarminess, they're going to choose the swaggering badasses.
Who wins this one? Because I have been going back and forth that Ricochet needs to win this, in my opinion, but he also won the first match by cheating. And Swerve is the guy that's going to get the big match, probably against Hangman again at AEW All In Texas.
Well, yeah, and based off of this stipulation, it seems almost impossible now for Ricochet to win and have that make any sense at all.
Unless he gets it and then loses
it immediately
to whoever has the title at the end of the day. I'm going to also make another call. I think that I'm making some adjustments to the robe thing. I think Samantha Irvin debuts and the robe is her dress. Because they ended with the line about his wife being remembered, and she wants to be more involved on the wrestling side. And I think Ricochet, and Nana end up as a unit at the end of the night. So that's why I'm kind of saying, see, they love to ignore these stipulations, or not necessarily ignore them, but they don't matter in terms of ranking. So Swerve Strickland could still be a number one contender without winning this match eventually. So I think Ricochet may actually screw his way to winning it again.
Yeah, and then Swerve ends up getting in, and it's a three-way match.
Or Ricochet loses his number one contender match, and then Swerve is built up after Dynasty or whatever thing comes in between now and All In.
Yeah, but, especially if you're going to put Ricochet in with a faction with Samantha Irvin and the other guy. Nana. Having him lose the first match out really takes the sting out of the guy.
Yeah,
they have booked themselves into a quarter with
really they have. It's
because the stipulation removes all the intrigue around the outcome of the match. Actually, because if Swerve doesn't win, then I don't care that Ricochet's number one contender, because I do not see a path for him winning the title.
Right. I'm still going, well,
I'm going to go Swerve. I don't feel good about it. They might do the dumb thing and make a dead-end number one contender. But
I'm with you. I'm doing the same justification. I'm going with Swerve, but it feels like some sort of angle coming out of this where Nana turns heel on Swerve and ends up with Ricochet. And that was because he couldn't get the robe back or some dumb justification like that.
Or you could also have a goofy spot where Nana pours like warm coffee on Samantha Irvin and she's all like, I'm covered in coffee.
I don't have any guarantees of that. I just know that Samantha Irvin came with a new single, so she might want to promote it, and that would be the place to promote it. All I'm saying.
Well, I'm coming out with a new single here too. I'm going to promote it.
Probably turn heel too.
Yeah, I already have to a lot of people.
3, 2, 1. And what some people wanted to be the main event, and I would be with them if they hadn't done this match at the last pay-per-view, or at least at Grand Slam. Timeless Tony Storm versus Mariah May in a Falls Count Anywhere match for the AEW Women's World Championship. Now, the justification was this is the most heated feud in the company, was until Grand Slam, and also Tony could quote-unquote finish her story in Tinseltown. That being said, I don't want this to be a real match. I want them to have actually filmed in places around Los Angeles this week and do it's Falls Count Anywhere. So let's do the brawl on the Santa Monica Pier. Let's do a brawl in front of Paramount Studios. Let's do a brawl on the Warner Brothers lot.
Even better, I want homages to classic movie fight scenes.
Yes.
I think, to me, the only sort of joy of the Timeless Tony Storm thing is, especially since she doesn't really do a lot of retro wrestling spots or anything like that. She's not throwback to like the old style of wrestling like that. I think the joy to her would be all these references to movies and homages to movies and doing something where, we get a Rocky style fight scene. Like the final climax of the match is them in the ring like Rocky.
Or even the end of Blazing Saddles where they end up on a set and everybody starts fighting everybody else.
Yeah, right.
I actually want this to be a comedy match.
Right. Like the Monty Python bit where like everybody's fighting and then all of a sudden the cops show up.
The cops show Holy Grail. Yeah. I'm here for that. That'd be great. Nobody could finish. The match has been called off because everybody was arrested.
That would actually be such a hilarious finish to that match.
But it's like, man, if they could, like, they did an angle at the Queen of the Ring premiere in New York, and I hate those. By the way, I don't like doing wrestling angles at real events where people are trying to quote unquote respect professional wrestling. It just drives me nuts. But if they had been able to sneak a bit at like the Oscars last week and film a pin, I'd be here for that.
I mean, like, I'm just continuing to think, like, balcony fight scene.
Fight scene's good.
Yeah, a good balcony fight scene, or like over the rafters in the auditorium. Like hit. And all of this stuff can be done incredibly safe, right? Because you're pre-taping all of this.
Go through find some show under the Warner Brothers purview, and they're doing a live taping, quote unquote, and they fight through that.
Yep, right.
And it turns black and white as soon as they come in there, something like that. No, I'd be here for the creativity.
I would, yeah. I go back to one of my favorite Bray Wyatt matches was his match against John Cena.
Oh, where's the generations of Cena come in?
I think there's a real place for that type of comedy / art wrestling at one of those every couple of shows, every few shows, just to break it up and do something a little bit different, and so that the show's not just all one flavor the whole way through.
I would agree. I'm hoping for not a good match. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah. I'm hoping to laugh my ass off.
I want a no-star match.
Yes. Well, not necessarily a dud, but I want to hear.
No, but you know what I mean. I want a match that I wouldn't even consider assessing stars.
AJ Styles versus The Undertaker. That's what I want. One where I don't consider, where I just go, this is so stupid, but I'm loving it. Quite the opposite. Konosuke Takeshita with Don Callis versus Kenny Omega for the AEW International title. Omega's winning this. It'll be a great match. Dave Meltzer is already rated at 5 stars. We'll just see how much grade inflation there is after that.
I
got nothing else to say about it.
Dave's going to tell you Kenny is back. This is going to feel a lot like Metallica after Saint Anger when they put out Death Magnetic, and I think we're gonna have a lot of that energy. Metallica's back, baby. And the question I think we all need to be asking ourselves as we watch the match, after Omega's gotten a couple years older, gone through several medical episodes here, is how back is back.
It's 2 back. They're going to be asking why they put the international title and not the world title on him. That's the problem you have. And
if it's not back enough, I think everyone's going to be real scared to say that.
Yes. And then finally, in a match that's sort of baffling but isn't in the way it's been pushed. Jon Moxley, who no longer has his Death Riders except for Marina Shafir, versus, this is how it reads, Cope. Not Adam Copeland, Cope, for the AEW World Championship. Let me just list what I think's going to happen. I think Marina Shafir is going to come out and try and interfere. I think Beth Phoenix is coming out for a pop. I think Christian is... Something's going to happen with that contract. Now, I don't know if he uses the contract to help Adam Copeland win against Moxley, or if he cashes it in and then beats Cope and that Christian is the AEW World Champion after this pay-per-view. But I will guarantee that Christian is going to be involved in this match somehow. I would bet Art Schleister's money on it. That's how I wasn't going to say bet my life, but I will bet Art Schleister's money on it. That's a reference. Look it up.
Like,
and
maybe...
I think it's gonna be Cope and Mox trying to follow that and trying to get that 5 stars and getting 3 3/4 probably, because I watch Cope and I'm just like, that dude is slow now.
Dude, I know. It's unfair that they are trying to make him work the old, that they're not letting him do some other style.
Yes.
I don't need him to be 30-year-old Edge. I need him to be whoever he is right now at 47.
I love grizzled veterans who learn tricks of the trade so they don't have to do the stuff that they used to do. I think that's an interesting story. He needs to talk to his
buddy Christian. Christian's excellent at this.
Yes. Oh no, I'm going to have this barbed wire cage match with Malachi Black, no longer with the company, and tear my knee up at 50.
Whereas I can think of several Christian matches since he's been in the company where he's had really lovely matches.
Yes.
Fine 3 3/4, ish matches where he does some spots where I go, damn, I hope I'm that mobile at 52. Or, I think he's a great wrestler.
Because the time's ticking for this tag team run that they're supposed to have.
But that would also, presuppose that Tony Khan wants to tell stories with characters. And it's unclear to me that he does.
Yes, I would agree with that. Who do you have coming out as a champion?
I don't know. Copeland's been getting so much of the advantage here in the lead up to this. It feels like Moxley comes away with it.
Okay. And so Christian's just left with that contract still, huh?
Yeah, I think that's still out there.
He cashes it in and loses as well. And that's how he and Cope form a bond. Oh, that would suck ass.
I don't see how Christian fits into the Moxley storyline super clean. Because it's not like the Death Riders are done. They've just all been assaulted mercilessly by Moxley. But Moxley's swerve could also, or not by Moxley, by Copeland. Moxley's swerve could also be they're all more healed than they've been letting on, and they've sort of been overselling it.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where it's like Christian's role is to get Moxley out of the picture somehow, or Moxley's already out of the picture because Cope has beaten him, and so at the greatest moment of his life, here comes Christian once again to ruin his quote-unquote best friend's moment type of thing.
No, yeah. I definitely see the interplay there. The other thing of this is I don't think the fans are jonesing for a Cope title run. And
I don't think they're jonesing for a Cope Christian feud at the top of the card.
No, and that would be sort of predicated on the notion that you really wanted to see Cope as champion again.
Yes.
And now you're upset that mean old Christian has screwed his buddy, not Edge, over again.
Gray chest-haired Copeland, who's no longer caring about that part, and those two can plank together. And look, they're impressive. They have impressive physiques for their age. Don't get me wrong. It's just one of those things where I think the AEW fan base has moved on from all these guys, with the exception of the Hurt Business is still getting the rub a bit. But I don't think they want Copeland and Christian at the top of the AEW card. I think Tony wants them there.
Tony wants them there because in his mind, they can kind of deliver that match. And in my head, both of them, especially at this stage of their career, are characters. And where you would get the most utility out of a guy like Christian is going to be having him leading or being the like the chop heel manager, occasional wrestler type guy who even the other heels hate. Like the one person who's the most evil guy in the company is Christian.
Yep. That'll do it for our preview. Anything other than that in AEW wanted to hit on this week, since we were already in the neighborhood?
I know. I feel like we got a lot of this. It's just basically a kind of blanket statement that the promos on this show have been very flat for me as of late. These guys go out there and they have no story to tell when they have these interactions.
I'm laughing because I got into it a little bit. I like Hobbs, who does the through the years podcast, through being THROH, about Ring of Honor. And he made some tweet. He's a funny guy, usually funnier than I am when it comes to wrestling. But it's like, hey, remember when AEW was the promo promotion? I was like, no, I don't ever remember that time, other than Eddie Kingston maybe, and occasionally Punk when he was there. But I don't ever remember AEW being a promo promotion in the sense of what I think of it as. So it was just one of those weird things. I'm just like, do people really think that? Do people really think they were coming out and doing big heated promos to come in to, because we'll talk about that, because two of their ex people sandwiched this week of great promos, with CM Punk starting the week and Cody Rhodes ending it. Both those promos were absolutely fantastic to me. And look, admittedly in the WWE style. I'm not saying, you could put that in a Memphis area, although you put Punk's probably in, because Punk, you always believe Punk's mad, which is his greatest gift to promos. You always believe that he is pissed off at something. Cody gets into the melodrama, and he's good at it, but it's still one of those things where it's just like you could feel what he's getting at, and always invoking Dusty works for me. So I enjoyed his promo as well. We had some thoughts on the Orton promo.
Oh, boy. Okay. So, especially after Punk had the really nice promo, and it felt like WWE has really given some consideration about like the implications and the way the Cena heel turn has ripples all across the board. When I saw Randy Orton coming out to the ring here on SmackDown, excited. I was editing a song and I was like, oh, and we're starting the show with Orton. Okay, I'm really excited to hear what Randy Orton has to say about John Cena, because of all the people in this company, no one has had a more complicated and checkered relationship with John Cena than Randy Orton. So Randy gets in. He's looking thick these days. He's a big boy these days. Those legs, they touch now. And he gets up there and he makes the pose. He does the snaky man thing, and then they hand him the microphone. And then the music comes down, and Randy grabs the microphone and proceeds to make a series of homophobic comments.
Yes. In the year of our Lord 2025. God.
And I proceeded to audibly swear at my television, completely dumbfounded that a moment 15 years in the making, in which surely during one of these long drives over the many years that Randy Orton has had to make town after town in this fine country of ours and across this fine planet of ours, one planet where we are all one community united by wrestling. During these travels, Randy surely would have thought on these airplane rides, on these train rides, on these automobile rides, what would happen if John Cena went heel? And I guess the thought that passed through his head is, boy, I can't wait to make gay jokes that day.
I don't need any of your woke crap. I'm pushing back. I could see him thinking that too. It's like, we no longer have to be woke anymore. We can do what we want.
And much like the woke comedian who's like, why is this not working? And blaming the audience. It's no, dude, your material sucks.
Yeah. We're running a little long, so I'll just rapid fire a few from my notes here. The Creed brothers are awesome. At 450 from Brutus Creed and then a shooting star from Julius Creed. If these guys were in AEW, they'd be pushing them for the tag team titles this week. And instead, it's just like a normal Raw where, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee popped for it. This crowd should have been standing on their feet going, God, these guys need to be pushed now. I know they got a "This is awesome" chant, which is great, but my God, Brutus Creed with that 450. I jumped up watching that, and I rarely get out of my seat for anything.
I had that same reaction. I thought Otis and Gunther over-delivered too.
Yes.
I thought that was a lovely match. Gunther was very generous to Otis and made sure that Otis looked really good. That was a fun match.
Good week for meat in the WWE.
Yeah, I was going to say that little speed match.
The speed match was awesome between
Inamura.
Ivar and Inamura. That if you have 2 minutes and 45 seconds of time, which I'm sure you do, go there and watch that match, because that is Vader Club in a nutshell for two. Because Inamura is winning that crowd over during that match.
I almost made that the Vader Club just because I wanted to make sure that we gave that match some shine this week. I thought that was outstanding.
Fantastic.
I thought that was a lovely presentation of the speed style booking. You can really get a good sense of the match format that they do there. No, Chris actually paid attention to a full match. Yeah, no, I did. So every 30
seconds.
Only
3 minutes. I think you could.
No, right. No. But like I went into detail, right? Like every 30 seconds or so, that's when they do a big spot. Like
God, he was good. He was so good in that match.
And it just had it's a great way to keep the fans engaged. It's a great way to show off some power moves. Inamura was awesome. I loved his sumo slaps, palming him into the corner. I think, man, when you get a big monster veteran like an Ivar, like a Gunther, who is generous and respects the young guys they're coming up with, they're like, nah, let's do some shit, man. You just get some really great interactions and some really good mid-card wrestling, and that's all I want out of mid-card matches. I just want like 5 to 6 minutes of fun. Oh man,
the sense of urgency helps speed so much, because like you get a guy like Andrade who is good, but when he's working at a clip for speed, you really respect everything he can do in a long match when you see what he can do in a short match. That's the thing about that. Like, you don't get bangers every week. This one was definitely a banger, but it's one of those things where I generally don't like short matches like this, because I always feel like give them time to tell the story, etc. But boy, they get their stuff in and they get out of there. I kind of like speed quite a bit.
Quicker notes here. Chelsea Green and Piper. So entertaining. Chelsea Green is Cactus Jack. Outstanding.
Yes, I have Chelsea Green is awesome, and that's the other main roster note I have. Because
she's fantastic.
She's good.
She's a good wrestler. She's an entertaining match. She's a great promo. Her and Piper are both great wrestlers.
She's tough as hell, too.
She's tough. Dude, one of the most underappreciated, not by the people inside, but I think by general fans and stuff. People do not appreciate how good Chelsea and Piper are as a unit.
She gets punched in the face in that NXT tag match. Basically, just her nose explodes during it, and then comes back 3 days later to do that pretty damn entertaining hardcore match with Michin. I always want to call her Mia Yim, but Michin, dressed as Cactus, which was a fantastic touch in Philly. And of course, it brought back another favorite of mine, Alba Fire, who I adore. Look, this gimmick's going to be ridiculous with both of them playing Secret Service agents. Don't get me wrong. But I'm also here for it because I like all three of them.
I'm actually really excited for Alba to do a little bit of comedy stuff because, when she was Kaylee Ray and she was like the forever champion, it was like no nonsense. And I think her her and Piper, the Scottish Secret Service agents.
Yes.
There's just a lot of fun
Did,
there.
did you see the now? I don't know if this made air or if this was just me watching on YouTube, but they did do a backstage segment after the match
No,
with Byron, where she's like, Eagle has landed, and she's taking Chelsea, and they basically don't answer anything, but it's one of those things where all three of them are on screen doing the gimmick. It's gonna be, yes, because Alba Fire has some pretty decent comedic timing too.
Right, and then they're all sneaky good as a trio. So like these three, in addition to being very funny, when they are required to turn in a good trio tandem match, they're going to turn that in. Again, it's Kaylee Ray we're talking about.
And they made that Zarya Sol Ruka team look like $1 million too.
Yeah. Outside of that, Trick Williams, we've talked a lot about the problems with his booking and stuff over this entire push. I thought what they did with Kale Dixon was something that I think that's something they needed to do with Trick more often, which is he needs to get he needs the out of nowhere Trick can just knock your ass out thing.
Yes.
And they needed to establish that.
The hierarchy. They needed to establish
way
it.
sooner.
I agree.
He's always needed to have that edge about him because everything else in his match style's hard to define. And I think the idea that Trick with some of his moves just has KO power would be a thing that would give him some credibility, especially when he's facing these bigger guys, and also answer the question like, why is this guy the champion?
Yeah, I'm with you because I think there's two routes you can go: ass kicker or good technical wrestler, and you can't go good technical wrestler with Trick, so make him an ass kicker. Yep. And just really, he can just punch you at any time and knock your ass out. I'd be fine with that. Shout out to Sean Spears and Tony D'Angelo. I thought that match was better than it had any right to be. And Sean Spears, he's never going to be on anybody's top Mount Rushmore, but I thought that match was solid.
Yeah, I think I just miss Ty Dillinger in the sense of that clearly was the most connected he's ever been with the fans, and the Sean Spears gimmick here, right down to the thing that he says at the beginning of the song, the truth will be revealed, but there will be pain in the revealing, or whatever it is. What does that even mean?
It doesn't mean anything.
What does that mean?
It's main roster speak. They do that crap all the time in their things, and people just say crap, and you go, "What does that mean?"
At least Randy somewhat connects to the "I hear voices in my head" thing. Like like that at least ties into his promos and stuff. The truth will be revealed. What truth? Who's the pain? Who's getting revealed? What are we revealing?
Are we gonna turn them into a mafia family now? Because I'm kind of here for that.
I want them to be like a Scientology cult.
Oh God. Thetans and doing tests and stuff like that. They come to chase you and they go, "Hey, Thea Hale, we need you to take a personality test. Open your mind."
We could call him Papa Sean, and he looks inside you.
And here comes Papa Shango.
Coming
out. I got nothing else really.
I don't really either.
I guess NXT was solid. NXT was a solid show. It wasn't nothing spectacular, but I thought it was solid.
Okay, Naomi and Bianca.
Ugh.
I thought those two stunk up the joint with what the material they had to work with, and also the delivery of the material that they had to work with.
It was the wrong call, is the problem. Oh, by the way, Io and Rhea, we didn't even bring that up on that Raw show. Good God.
Yeah, another great week for mid-card. You cannot tell me on WWE Raw and SmackDown that the middle of the show doesn't have good wrestling on it. That's just factually inaccurate. There are good matches in the middle of the show now.
The play is that Bianca was behind it, and that Jade never saw her attacker. She just assumed it was somebody to take over. Who she just assumed it was Naomi to do the thing. Bianca needed to turn heel here, and instead it's Naomi, who nobody wants to boo necessarily. Might need the gimmick. If she joins the bloodline, that'd be interesting in some ways, but this is, I did it for us. It was Rikishi saying, I did it for The Rock, for hitting Austin with the car. And you just kind of go, and Bianca is just overselling it a little bit in terms of being crestfallen that her best friend would do such a thing.
I did it for us rang extraordinarily hollow, but then Bianca calls it out, and there was nothing behind I did it for us. That was the thing that actually really drove me crazy, is it was not just merely I did it for us. Okay, I don't believe you. What's the real reason? There is no real reason. It's literally just that. What?
Well, also the scary part's going to be if Bianca then turns heel next week or in 2 weeks because, I believe her.
Right. And I think that the much easier way to do this was to have Bianca be the guilty one here, because beyond everything else, if that wasn't the plan, after you did that press conference and you saw how badly she was struggling selling conviction, you should have just said, you're not trying to sell conviction. You're trying to be full of shit. Here, go the other way.
You're going to say something about NXT, I think.
No, that was it. I just wanted to make sure I got in the Naomi Bianca thing.
Yeah, it was one of those things, especially given Bianca's involvement in the Io Rhea match. Where she quote unquote distracted Rhea Ripley by rooting for Io.
Right. That was weirdly manipulative.
Right. And so I figured they were either in on it, both of them, which still may be the case. That she just faked this entire, I can't believe you did that, although or she
but then her scolded dog face when Jade came out I thought that made Bianca look really weak. Jade comes out, it's like, you're a bad dog, go to your room, and Bianca's like, I'm sorry, I'm a bad number one contender, I'm very sorry.
Yeah, it made her look weak, and it just Jade's not a good baby face. I'm going to say that. I think Jade's a better heel than she is a baby face. Being arrogant. I mean, she got in a fight with Shayna Baszler. She has a little natural heel to her. Let's go with that as opposed to, she's a bodybuilder and jacked, so I have to make her a baby face in this.
Right. But that's Vince alpha.
It's very Vince.
It's Vince alpha virtuism. Whereas he doesn't realize that for most of us, we kind of look at someone like that as being self-absorbed. The idea that you're spending 5-6 hours a day just bodybuilding, for a lot of us,
and looking at yourself in the mirror,
and we stop and think, what else could you be doing with that 5 hours a day that you spend at the gym? Whether it's reading books or helping people or hanging out with your family or whatever it is.
And we go out to eat, and she has to have the special diet, and you need to take the skin off the chicken because, we can't have an ounce of fat on me because I have a competition later or whatever. It's like, okay, great. I'll have the nachos.
Yeah, your body is wired to be a super efficient caloric intake machine, but I'm sure this chicken skin that we're having at dinner this one night in a year of 365, that's the thing that's going to break your body down.
Yeah, this makes no sense.
You're going to look like be a chonker just like me here after you eat that fry.
People want to dance with Naomi. They don't want to boo her. Let's just let the people continue to dance and do their neon stuff. So, but yeah. Anyways, Chris, we have Super Vader versus Gary Albright from UWFi in 1995.
Yeah, this week I pinged and ponged around. I was trying to find a good Joe Malenko match, and I did find a good one. The problem is the resolution or the video quality on this one was just so poor. It was one of his better matches with one of his kind of legendary, or not legendary, but kind of rivals in his career, a title match. But I couldn't get a good resolution on it. It really took me out of it. So I decided, after I was poking back around, to go into Gary Albright again. And we've watched Gary Albright versus Misawa, which was a fun one because we haven't watched that much Misawa matches. And Gary Albright in that match is just his suplex ability is outstanding. And what's
that entire match is built around the story of him getting the full Nelson and everybody being scared to death he's going to pull off the suplex.
Yep. I mean, and what's incredible to me about Albright here by like 95 is that they have established so clearly that this guy is a wrestler shooter that even his clasp gets gasps from the crowd. Like all like a tense moment in an Albright match is he going to get a full clasp control of his opponent? Because the audience knows the second Albright gets the clasp on you, you're going up in the air. It does not matter how big you are.
Yeah, and both matches we watched, this one and then the one against Vader, anytime he was around the waist, everybody was like, oh,
I love it. That was the thing that made me pop with the Vader thing is just they clearly established him so well at this point. He gets that behind the back one, and the crowd's like, oh, and then, like when he does that side suplex on Vader, that the house goes crazy. That because Vader did not get tossed around like that, and Albright, whether he won or lost, one thing that every single opponent he was ever in the ring with got over is this guy. His suplexing is devastating.
Yeah, I was a little uncomfortable watching this one because it feels like Gary Albright wants nothing to do with this match at times because Vader is just killing him with these meat hooks of his. I think go ahead.
No, there's one in particular where even though Vader, when he does his meat hooks, is like kind of like pulling his arm, and there's just so much meat there. He ate potatoes Albright a few times. And I think, in a way, I think Albright got himself into trouble at the beginning of the match when he just went into that overhand forearm sequence where he was doing those clubbering forearms on Vader.
Yes.
Those are pretty damn stiff. And I think that woke Vader up in a wrong way.
Yeah, it's one of those you have to give as good as you get. I'm interested in what the old guys here who were presenting the title thought of this because I'm looking at Albright's Wikipedia page. By the way, unofficial member of the bloodline by marriage because he was married to an Inouye. They should make him part of the DLC for the game, but I don't think they're going to. But that would be an interesting thing.
I would love that just to have a guy who just does murderous suplexes to wrestle as.
God, he was only 36 when he passed too. That's a scary thing to me.
That is wow.
Yeah, he was wrestling a match in Pennsylvania for an indie company, and he had a heart attack and passed away. But
I mean, the guy was carrying a lot of extra weight around the middle of his body.
6'4", 353, but he was trained by Billy Robinson, Danny Hodge, and Lou Thez. And that's probably why Vader, after this match, after he wins, picks up that microphone and begs for their respect afterwards. Because all three of those guys would probably come to the back and kick his ass. Wait, you're burying our guy is losing in this title match? What are you talking about? Because I think all three were in the ring for that belt ceremony type of thing. I think Thez was still around at that time. Yeah, Thez passed in 2002, so I think that he was one of those guys. Hodge in 2020, and then Billy Robinson 2014. So yeah,
Albright was the real human suplex machine. Like I know Taz has that moniker, and Taz is a great suplexer, but Albright, that size. And the way that guy tosses people around.
I mean, he and Rock, and Brock kind of, but not really. Although now Brock did go to the University of Minnesota. But I mean, really, those guys are kind of the last of the breed of guys who went to Division I schools and played at a high level sport. Because he was University of Nebraska, NCAA, set the Nebraska record for total falls in a season, 38.
Wow.
And in the Big Ten, or it was probably the Big 8 at that time, And that's, where you have your Iowas and your Midwestern powerhouses kind of a thing. I miss, like, it was like the Varsity Club always impressed me as a stable, because you had Spivey, who played offensive tackle for one of those national title Georgia teams. You had Rotunda, who was legit Letterman at Syracuse. And we're saying you had Dr. Death at Oklahoma and Rick Steiner at Michigan. I miss those big Division I school athletes who become professional wrestlers and really playing up their collegiate ability. I think Obafemi's from Alabama. I think he's either a track and field or a football guy from the University of Alabama, or one of those. Let me look that up real quick. I'll let you vamp a little more.
But yeah, this match was fought under the UWF rules, which are also a little bit different, where there's a little bit more of an emphasis on knockdowns and no emphasis on pinfalls.
Yeah.
So Albright, I don't feel like Albright, in addition to didn't like getting potato by Vader, I just feel like this type of match style is not up Albright's alley. It's like,
no, he's not. He's not a fighter. He's a wrestler.
Yeah, and Albright's moveset was like suplex you and then try to put you into a full Nelson or a cross arm breaker.
His real name is O'Dugbison. In terms of his last name, he started at Middle Tennessee State, won Conference USA title, and then transferred to the University of Alabama in the summer of 2019, where he won the shot put title in the SEC Indoor Track and Field Championships in 21 and 2022. Huh.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, no, he's a real deal, and I think, that's full on Gerald Briscoe recruiting right there, where you go into the big schools and you look for guys, type of a thing. But no, I liked this. I didn't love this because, again, it felt like one guy who knew how to fight and one guy who was like, I just want to wrestle. What are you doing? Hitting me in the face all the time.
No, I don't. It's unfortunate because Albright's such a great wrestler, but you don't get to see him wrestle a lot of your favorite wrestlers,
right,
which is frustrating. I enjoy watching Albright matches a ton. It's hard to find matches where the other guy on the billing actually has any name recognition for me.
The Masawa match is a good one to seek out, that type. So for my pick next week, I am thinking, I'm in the neighborhood right now, but I was saying because of the John Cena turn, we do another very famous turn in wrestling, and I give you Arn Tully versus Barry Windham and Lex Luger, and I include some of the before and after promos on that. But we'll see. Let's end it there. This has been Shake Them Ropes. You can follow me on Twitter/X at CrapGame13. You can just follow the show at Shake Them Ropes, all one word. I also do a show over on the Fight Game Media network called The Dynamite Show about 20 minutes after they go off the air. Paul Ace Fontaine of Wrestling Observer and I go live on YouTube. It drops in your audio feeds the next morning for free. We do a thorough deconstruction of that night's Dynamite, which is why sometimes I hold back on this show because I feel like I'm being repetitive. Chris has other varied interests, including auto repair and other things.
I like having money and I guess losing money. Anyways, if you want to take guitar lessons from me, I'd love that. Go and hit me up on Instagram, instagram.com/DOCTOR_NOV, and message me for guitar lessons, and I will teach you guitar lessons and music lessons and bass lessons and all sorts of lessons.
All levels?
All levels.
Okay.
All peoples, all planets.
I may have a lead for you. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know. I got you. Listen to the Wiggles.
And your Spotify?
Oh, my Spotify is Chris Novembrino. Listen to the Wiggles.
Listen to the Wiggles.